Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Love Meets Literature. This is one of my favorite episodes. We're going to be going over our September Aardvark picks. Before we begin, I am your host, Rachel, and you can find me on Instagram at Paperbacks and Sketchbooks.
And I am your other host, Joe, and you can find us at Love Meets Literature.
Yes, please do give us a follow, mostly active on Instagram, but you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. It will help us immensely. So, how has your past reading week been? I haven't seen you pick up a book in a while, so it makes me a little bit concerned.
I've definitely been slumpish lately.
The slump.
Yeah, I picked up Brandon Sanderson's novella, I think is what it's called when it's like the really short book, called Snapshot. And I started it, and I started reading it, and I got through like a chapter, or no, I think I got through 2 chapters, and then I just kind of put it back down, and that's all I have done. I did technically read a book, you could call it, about ramen noodles,
Interesting.
but it was like more of a really long Google Doc. This guy like assembled a Google Doc about ramen noodles and like the cooking and the methods and some of the history and stuff like that. And instead of publishing it in a book and actually like getting it printed, he just did it in a Google Doc so that way he could share it with everybody for free.
Interesting. I don't really know what to say to that. It's ramen noodles on a Google Doc. I mean, if you read it, it counts as reading.
I mean, it's set up in the way that it's a book. It has like a table of contents and an author and editors and things like that. It's just not like an officially published book, I guess you'd say.
Okay. Well, did you learn a lot about ramen noodles?
I did. I learned a tremendous amount about ramen noodles, and I'm very excited to cook some.
I mean, all you've been eating recently is ramen noodles, so...
Yes, I've been eating a lot of the instant ramen, but this was like traditional Japanese style ramen noodles, so I want to find some time to cook them and make all the different like sauces and broths.
Is it a complicated process to make traditional ramen, or is it just very time consuming?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily complicated. I know the noodles, like hand making the noodles, is definitely a complicated process because you have to use baked soda, not baking soda, baked soda. It's like a special kind of, basically, when you bake baking soda, it changes the alkaline, like pH levels. And so then that's what gives the noodles their like chewiness. It's also used, I think, in making bagels or something like that. There's another thing that uses it. I can't remember what it is though. But that process is like complex and you need to know like some chemistry for it. But again, it's kind of simple because you just like put it on a tray and put it in the oven for like an hour.
So you want to make the noodles yourself too, not just the broth?
Yes, but I don't know. I want to start with like the broth and everything and do all that. And then I want to make my way to trying to make my own noodles at some point too.
Oh my goodness. Listen, you're fine in the kitchen, but you've never made a noodle before.
I've never made pasta. I have done traditional style ramen where I've made like a broth. And that stuff is all relatively simple. You just put it in the big pot and let it go. But yeah, I've never made noodles of any kind.
That could be an adventure.
I think it'll be fun. I did make the pot sticker or gyoza wrappers one time,
You
which
did.
is kind of like a kind of similar to noodles in a grand scale.
But they're a dough, not a noodle.
Yeah. And you have to like roll them out individually, as where with like a noodle, you're like doing the whole thing. So I don't know. It should be interesting.
All right then. Well, I look forward to eating this ramen whenever you decide to make it.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely plotting what I'm going to do for it. So
That should be good. Well, you made a sandwich loaf recently that turned out really well.
I did. Yes. It's just like white bread that you could get at a store, but homemade. and it was really good.
It was tastier than the store-bought one. It was more buttery and it had more flavor. Because white bread you get in the store doesn't really taste like anything.
Yeah, no, it just tastes like almost like nothing. As where this had like you can taste the milk almost a little bit. You could taste like the butter. You could taste the salt. Like it actually
Mm-hmm.
had flavor of
Mm-hmm.
what bread is supposed to taste like.
Yeah, it was good. So all I want now is homemade sandwich bread. So you best get baking.
I can make another loaf. That one's not hard. That one's pretty easy.
Yeah, it took you like no time at all to make that one.
Nope, it's just bread baking is a lot of waiting around because you got to wait for it to proof, and then you got to wait for it to proof again, and then you got to wait for it to bake, and then you got to wait for it to cool. It's just a lot of waiting.
It's a long process, but I'd say it was worth it because it was tasty.
Agreed.
Well, I had a better reading week than you have. I'm not reading informational Google Docs about ramen, but I did read a historical fiction called The Romanov Brides by Claire McHugh, and it actually was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So, in short, The Romanov Brides was about Queen Victoria's granddaughters, Ella and Alex, who end up starting romances with Russian czars. So, obviously, there was conflict between England and Russia back in the day. So, Queen Victoria was very against her granddaughters having relationships with the Russians, even though the Russians were somehow their cousins. Back in the day, people married their second cousins. It was just a thing. Sometimes they married their first cousins. Now, to us, that is incest and it is weird and it is gross and it is not allowed in this day and age. But back then, if you were in the royal circles, this is Victorian England. It's the 1800s. You did not really talk to outsiders who were not in your same social circles. And the people in your social circles were most of the time family. So Queen Victoria wanted to set up her daughters with other cousins on the English side, not the Russian side. She was like, I don't want you with the Russian cousins. So, I mean, the daughters obviously got what they wanted and they ended up with the Russians, and the English and the Russian sides blended eventually. But it was just so interesting learning about the extended royal family per se. And at the end, it described how they connected to the current royal family.
Oh, that would be super interesting.
Because the ending, there was a little blurb in the afterword saying that Queen Victoria's granddaughter, Victoria, I think her eldest daughter ended up being the mother of whoever married Queen Elizabeth. So it like had that little blurb in there, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool because now I understand the connection to the current royal family. But it's just a very long, complicated family tree. And as I was reading The Romanov Brides, I was having to keep straight all of these characters who had the same names because I guess there was no creativity back then. So everyone had the same name or very similar versions of the names. And even if they had nicknames, they had the same nicknames. So it's like it was hard to keep straight. But the author did include a simplified family tree and a list of characters. So that was helpful to keep going back to because there were so many instances where I was like, wait, how is this person connected to this person? And then I have to go to the family tree and try and figure it out, which isn't really that easy. It was kind of still difficult for me to look and see like, whose kid is this? Whose aunt is this? Like, it was a very mind-boggling experience while reading this book. But after I started just ignoring it and accepting the characters for who they were and who they were marrying, even though it was weird to me and I couldn't wrap my head around it, then I started enjoying the story. And it actually ended up being more of a love story between the daughters and the Russian guys than anything else. Like, it was obviously still historically accurate in most ways, and it did feature real characters. And Super interesting. I feel like I learned a lot. I ultimately gave it 4 stars. I think it's definitely worth the read if you enjoy more informational historical fictions, because at times the writing was a little dry because it was so informative. It wasn't as dialogue heavy, it was more explanatory.
How would you say this stacks up against other historical fictions in that vein? Like I know Bridgerton is kind of like that, right?
No, Bridgerton is Regency romance. It has no really historical context other than the Regency era that it's set in.
Okay, so then I guess that's the big difference is the historical fiction is historical and informative, like you mentioned.
Yes. But I haven't read another historical fiction set in this time period because the Regency era is different than Victorian era. And Bridgerton is also not a good comparison, no offense, because it's not labeled as historical fiction. It is labeled as romance because really the extent of the historicalness in Bridgerton is the era. But with this one, it's the Victorian era, which is right after the Regency era. And it was historically accurate, like almost to a T. Like, really, the fiction part was the author making scenarios and dialogue and like how certain characters might react based on research that she's done. I would only recommend it for people who enjoy more informational historical fiction novels. Like, if you like, let's say, Kristen Hanna's books, you probably would not like the Romanov Brides because the writing was very different, more academic, I guess. Like, I could see that book being read in like a school setting, but it was good. I still gave it 4 stars because I'm interested in that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I hope my long-winded explanation made sense.
Yeah, I mean, I got it.
So, The Romanov Brides by Claire McHugh, it was pretty good, pretty solid. So, today's episode, Aardvark Book Club picks. I love Aardvark. I don't think I need to explain my love of Aardvark. I think it's very well known that I love Aardvark.
Yes.
I have not skipped a month of Aardvark subscriptions since I became an Aardvark member. Whereas with Book of the Month, and this is no shade to Book of the Month, I pause my subscription regularly because the picks just don't hit the same as the Aardvark picks, in my opinion.
Well, Book of the Month has a lot more, right? At a time?
It depends. So Aardvark recently has been doing 6 picks, and Book of the Month fluctuates between 5 and 7.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, they're pretty on par. Aardvark used to do only strictly 5, but this year they started adding a 6th one, which I like. I like the extra options. But their picks just appeal more to me. They have usually more of the genres that I like. They have more romance, more thrillers. Book of the Month recently has been doing a lot of contemporary literary fiction kind of stuff, which is fine. It has its audience, but I am not that audience.
I think that's fair.
So before we get into our Aardvark picks, yes, I'm going to keep everybody waiting. We are in a little bit of what I like to call fake fall right now. The past couple days have been nice and cold. It's been in the 60s, dipping down into the 40s at night. It's been wonderful. It's been what I've been wanting for a very long time now. But alas, it is going to be back into the 80s this coming week, and I'm not ready for it. So I'm just curious, is there anything that you are looking forward to doing this fall?
Well, I want to go apple picking this year.
Oh, we best get on that then. It is prime apple picking season.
I also want apple cider donuts.
Oh, we should go get some.
We can get those when we go apple picking. Besides that, I'm just excited to wear pants and sweatshirts again.
That's true. My fall and winter clothes are just rotting in the closet. They're feeling neglected because I haven't given them the time of day since May. It's been a hot spring and a hot summer.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the cold.
I'm definitely on the side of there's like a lot of people out there that don't like pants or jeans. I love pants and jeans. It's my favorite things to wear.
I really want to get to jean weather again because I want to wear that new pair of jeans that I recently bought. I want to wear them all the time. They're the comfiest things ever.
You are definitely obsessed with them.
I am obsessed with them. I'd say I'm probably obsessed with them this week, but I can't wear those jeans because it's going to be back near 90 and I'm not going to go sweating outside in my new jeans in 90-degree heat.
Yeah, it's just not worth it.
It's not worth it. Not at all.
What are you excited for this fall, this fake fall?
Well, this fake fall, I've been sitting outside these past 2 days.
Enjoying it while you can.
Enjoying it while I can, yes. But for real fall, I would also like to go apple picking. I want to bake an apple pie this year. I still am scarred from when the apple pie exploded in the oven. So I have not made an apple pie in probably a couple years now. Probably longer than a couple years. It's probably been more like 3 or 4 years since I've made an apple pie because I'm just so scared that the pie dish is going to explode in the oven again.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. It was like as we were about to take it out too.
I know. And I mean, we probably shouldn't have eaten it because glass exploded everywhere. But I mean.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I remember thinking about that. I don't remember why, but not that long ago. I was like, we still ate that pie.
We still ate that pie. Well, I mean, I feel like we chew pretty well. So like if there was a piece of glass in it, we would have known.
I know, but like the risk was not
that
worth
pie
it.
was really good though. So
it was a really tasty pie.
Kind of worth it, but I do not recommend if your pie dish explodes in the oven, just do not eat the pie. Just throw it away. You don't know what kind of glass shards are going to be in there. Do not follow our example.
No, do not.
But I will give it another shot making an apple pie, and I will have my fingers crossed the entire time that the pie dish does not explode.
Yeah, we'll have to keep a very close eye on it.
There had to have been like a crack in that pie dish or something.
Yeah, definitely a chip or something.
I had never had a pie dish explode in the oven until that time.
Yeah, there had to have been a chip or a crack because it was as soon as we opened the door and it got like a rush of cold air, it must have shocked it, and that's what caused it to explode.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I'm going to make an apple pie this fall. Yeah, that's pretty much all I really want to do. I also want apple cider donuts. And I just want to spend a lot of time outside admiring all the beautiful color changing leaves.
Yeah, we got that tree right outside, so you'll be able to watch it.
We do,
colors.
But if it's like last year, it's just going to get really cold really fast and the tree's not even going to change color. All the leaves are just going to fall off.
Yeah, we had that flash freeze last year, so it just froze all the leaves and they all just fell off.
They all just fell off. And I was like, are you kidding me? We didn't even get to see this tree turn orange and yellow and all pretty.
Yeah, it went from green to nothing.
Green to dead is what it went to. But I can't wait for real fall to be here. This fake fall is just a load of nonsense.
Just a little taste of what's to come.
I guess so. That's a good way of looking at it. I'm here being negative Nancy about it. But you're like, oh, but it's what's to come. I think I'm ready to dive into our Aardvark picks for today.
All right, let's do it.
Our first one is How to Hide in Plain Sight by Emma Noyes, and this is a romance novel. On the day she arrives in Canada for her older brother's wedding, Elliot Beck hasn't seen her family in 3 years. Elliot adores her big, wacky, dysfunctional collection of siblings and in-laws, but there's a reason she fled to Manhattan and buried herself in her work, and she's not ready to share it with anyone. Not when speaking it aloud could send her back into the never-ending cycle of the obsessive-compulsive disorder that consumed her for years. Elliot thinks she's prepared to survive the 4-day-long wedding extravaganza, until she sees her best friend Manuel waiting for her at the marina and looking as handsome as ever. He was the person who, when they met as children, felt like finding the missing half of her soul. The person she tried so hard not to fall in love with, but did anyway. Manuel's presence at the wedding threatens to undo the walls Elliot has built around herself, the fortress that keeps her okay. If she isn't careful, by the end of this wedding, the whole castle might come crumbling down. So, obviously, this sounds like it's going to be a bit of a deeper romance novel, and I am here for it.
Yeah, this seems like it's going to be layered.
Layered is a good word. It is going to be layered. And I think I would read it. Recently romance has been my thing, and this one sounds right up my alley at this moment in time. Sometimes I want like a super surface level romance that's easy to read. Sometimes I want a deeper romance that has layers, as you said. And at this moment in time, I like a good layered romance.
Well, sounds like that one's right up your alley.
It is.
Our next one is So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. And this is a horror.
Ooh, I remember this one. We talked about this one in a past episode.
Yeah, that's true. I was about to say that name or that title sounds very familiar.
Yeah, go Aardvark with a new release.
Sloane Parker is dreading her birthday. She doesn't need a reminder she's getting older or that she's feeling indifferent about her own life. Her husband surprises her with a birthday weekend getaway. Not with him, but with Sloane's longtime best friend, troublemaker extraordinaire Naomi. Sloane anticipates a weekend of wine tastings in cozy robes in strategic avoidance of issues she'd rather not confront, like her husband's repeated infidelity. But when they arrive at their rental cottage, it becomes clear Naomi has something else in mind. She wants Sloane to stop letting things happen to her, for Sloane to really live. So Naomi orchestrates a wild night out with a group of mysterious strangers, only for it to take a horrifying turn that changes Sloane's and Naomi's lives literally forever. The friends are forced to come to terms with some pretty eternal consequences in this bloody, seductive novel about how it's never too late to find satisfaction, even though it might taste different than expected.
I am so excited for this one. So I actually learned this the other day that this was originally a signed edition for Aardvark. Aardvark doesn't do signed copies very often because I feel like logistically it's just hard for a book subscription box to do that. But this was a signed copy, okay? But the signed copy sold out at like 11 p.m. on September 1st. So very popular, and anyone who ordered it after that time is getting a reprint that's not signed.
What can you do?
The author can only sign so many copies.
Right.
But I'm wondering if this book was more popular than they expected it to be.
It's possible, which is probably, as like an author, that's probably an amazing feeling.
Probably, but I just thought it was so cool that it was a signed edition, and I had no idea until I was just scrolling through Aardvark's social media the other day, and I guess I missed the post saying that it was a signed edition when they originally posted all their stuff, because when I saw that I was like, wait, what? It was signed? But it's sold out. So
after reading through this again, I wonder if the mysterious thing that happens is like, well, I guess it's horror. I don't know what the realism. I was thinking vampires. I don't know why.
Well, I guess it is possible that it could be because the book cover on the front, it looks like it's a chalice of blood.
Right. I do remember that.
So it's possible it's vampires. I don't want to spoil anything from Black Sheep, which was her previous horror novel, but that one had vampire themes in it.
Oh, so maybe that's just like
it could be
reoccurring theme.
Could be her thing. I don't know. But this book super intrigues me, and it's going to give off the perfect Halloween spooky vibes, and I'm ready.
That one is definitely primed for Halloween for sure.
Oh, it is. And it's coming out at the perfect time. Our next Aardvark pick for September is Red River Road by Anna Downs, and this is a mystery thriller. Katie Sweeney is looking for her sister. A year earlier, just 3 weeks into a solo van life trip, her free-spirited young sister Phoebe vanished without a trace on the remote, achingly beautiful coastal highway in Western Australia. With no witnesses, no leads, and no DNA evidence, the case has gone cold. But Katie refuses to give up on her. Using Phoebe's social media accounts as a map, Katie retraces her sister's steps, searching for any clues the police may have missed. Was Phoebe being followed? Who had she met along the way, and how dangerous were they? And then Katie's path collides with that of Beth, who was on the run from her own dark past. Katie realizes that Beth might be her best and only chance of finding the truth, and the two women form an uneasy alliance to find out what really happened to Phoebe in this wild, beautiful, and perilous place. Anna Downs takes us on a twist-filled journey into the dark side of solo female travel in this gripping novel that explores what drives us to keep searching for those we have lost, the family bonds that can make or break us, and the deception of memory. So this is a very random thought that I had, but Aardvark does their logo placement very cleverly on all of their books. And on this book, on the cover, Red River Road is written in these huge block letters, and the O for road is the Aardvark logo. And I just love that they make their logo blend in. Whereas, again, not to like rain on Book of the Month, but Book of the Month just has their logo in the same spot on every single book. And sometimes it it's like ugly. But Aardvark places it nicely. So it's very inconspicuous and I like it a lot.
Yeah, I like that. It's the extra level of like touch, you know?
They pay attention to the details and I like it. But this book, okay, I don't know if I could ever read this book because it's going to make me so scared to ever go anywhere by myself ever again.
That's what I was thinking when I was reading this. Like, I know it's obviously focusing on the solo female travel, like they mentioned. But even as a guy, I feel like I would read this and be like, I'm never going anywhere.
No, I'm never going anywhere ever again. But it's kind of interesting that they're taking the van life concept and putting it into this mystery book.
It's kind of funny because I feel like horror and thrillers and suspense comes from what's happening in the real world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now van life and solo travel has become such a popular thing, and now they're making scary stories about it.
I mean, but that stuff can actually happen. I mean, you always see all over the news, like once in a while, somebody who is traveling on their own goes missing. And it's a thing and it's unfortunate. And now there's novels about it.
Life imitates art, art imitates life.
But honestly, if I want to be scared, I'll probably pick up that book.
This seems like another one that if you're into like the suspense side of things for Halloween, this would be another good pick.
Oh, definitely. I feel like the vibes are going to be really good too because it did mention a coastal highway in Australia. And I feel like that setting is going to be really cool.
Yeah, it makes for great, like both during the day, it's probably super cool and really scenic. And then during the night, it's probably horrifying.
Maybe there's murderous kangaroos.
Yeah, you never know. Our next one is Colored Television by Danzy Senna, and this is literary fiction. Jane has high hopes that her life is about to turn around. After a long, precarious stretch bouncing among sketchy rentals and sublets, she and her family are living in luxury for a year, house sitting in the hills above Los Angeles. The gig magically coincides with Jane's sabbatical, giving her time and space she needs to finish her second novel. Finally, some semblance of stability and success seems to be within her grasp. But things don't work out quite as hoped. Desperate for a plan B, like countless writers before her, Jane turns her gaze to Hollywood. When she finagles a meeting with Hampton Ford, a hot producer with a major development deal at a streaming network, he seems excited to work with a real writer, and together they begin to develop the Jackie Robinson of biracial comedies. Things finally seem to be going right for Jane until they go terribly wrong. Funny, piercing, and page-turning, Colored Television is Senna's most on-the-pulse, ambitious, and rewarding novel yet.
That one sounds like it's going to cover a lot of deeper themes, and I feel like depending on who is reading this book, it could be very eye-opening for a lot of people.
Yes, I completely agree with what you're saying. This feels like it could be very layered, and I think a lot of people would learn something from it, and I think also a lot of people might find kind of comfort in it, depending on what your background is.
Yes, it does sound really good. I did not have this on my radar before, but I think I do now. I'm not really a literary fiction kind of person, so we'll see. But literary fiction is not always what people think to be as like really slow and profound and deep. Sometimes it could be those things, but it could also have it could also move along at a very fast pace while still being profound and deep and still having sort of a slow burn. So I like literary fiction for the aspect that it is a deeper story. I don't like it for the aspect that it is usually a really slow burn, and I like things to happen sooner in the book.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Especially, I guess it makes sense though, with a deeper topic, you typically want to make sure that you touch on all the important points. But on the other hand, for good storytelling, I could see you want it to kind of have a good pace and actually get where you want it to go.
Yes, but I think this one is still definitely worth checking out. I know a lot of people are super excited for it, which makes me think it could be a really, really good book.
Yeah, I'm very interested about the whole concept of a streaming network deal. It sounds like it's a writer that is then changing their story to maybe a screenplay or a show or a TV show. That part definitely intrigues me.
Yeah, could be interesting. And our final aardvark pick is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed. And this is a historical fantasy and a gothic fiction novel. The lady knows the stories, how her eyes induce madness in men. The lady knows she will be wed to the Scottish brute, who does not leave his warrior ways behind when he comes to the marriage bed. The lady knows his hostile, suspicious court will be a game of strategy requiring all of her wiles and hidden witchcraft to survive. But the lady does not know her husband has occult secrets of his own. She does not know that prophecy girds him like armor. She does not know that her magic is greater and more dangerous, and that it will threaten the order of the world. She does not know this yet, but she will. So obviously, Lady Macbeth, this is a reimagining of Shakespeare's Macbeth, hence the title of the book. But this one is covering Lady Macbeth's story, and it's reimagining her, who is supposedly Shakespeare's most famous villain. So, could be interesting.
It could be. Macbeth is one of the only major Shakespearean plays. They're all plays, right?
Yes, he wrote plays.
That I don't know. I feel like I know all the other major ones, or I've seen them of some kind.
I'm not as familiar with Macbeth. It was not something that we had to study in school. Like we studied other of his plays, like Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But Macbeth was ignored for some reason, and I'm not sure why. I've never read it, so obviously I don't know. So maybe I need to read Macbeth. I don't know. I mean, I'm not like a huge Shakespeare fan, but this book, Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed, sounds like it could be very, very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think out of the two, I'd rather read Lady Macbeth than Shakespeare's.
Yes, but for reimaginings, I like to have some sort of familiarity with the original so then I can see how the reimagining parallels the original.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I like them to be accurate in some sort of sense. Like, I like to have those aha moments where it's like, hey, that's in the original play or
Yeah.
story or myth or whatever it is that they're reimagining.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So you can be like, oh, I know that character, or oh, that makes sense, or yeah.
Yeah.
I guess now that means we'd have to read Shakespeare's Macbeth.
Which doesn't really excite me because it will bring me back to my high school days when I had to read Shakespeare. And, you know, having to read Shakespeare for school, I guess, is wildly different than just reading it for fun. I'm not into the whole like dissecting the story. Like, if I were to read a Shakespeare play now, I would just, you know, interpret it at surface level.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like doing that so much in like high school actually made me not want to do that with other things. Like I don't want to dissect a story or anything. I'm just like I'm just going to read it and be happy with it.
Yeah, I'm not into the whole deeper meaning in books kind of thing unless I see it outright. Like if I'm like actively reading and then all of a sudden like I read something and I'm like, "Wait a second. I think this like alludes to this." I'm not looking at like what symbols there are in the book that like mean something deeper, like all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff that we had to do in school. It's not my thing. Nobody's doing that in the real world when they
No.
are reading a novel. Only teachers make you do that. No
They're
offense,
like
teachers, we love you, but we don't want to dissect novels.
I'll never forget there was in my freshman year of high school, we had a teacher that I cannot remember the story I read. It was some form of short story, but there was a blue door And they were like, what do you think the blue door means?
Oh my goodness. I'd be
Yeah.
like, I think it's just a blue door.
Yeah.
They just painted the door blue.
And they were like, and our teacher was like, no, it represents the sadness the author had in their heart. And we're like, no, we're pretty sure the door is just blue.
Yeah. Or when I remember we were reading The Great Gatsby and we had to dissect what the cover of the book meant.
Yes. Yes. I remember we had to do stuff like that
And
too.
I'm like, what? It's the cover of the book. I mean, yeah, there's these like big looming eyes, but like I'm like, he's always watching. I don't know, because he was always watching over his parties.
Yeah.
But apparently, no, there was a bigger meaning than that. And I'm like, I don't even remember what it is now, but I was like, are you serious?
My favorite part is we did that for The Great Gatsby, and one of the kids in my class had a different book because like we ran out, and so he's like, mine's just like brown with the letters on it. And it was hilarious. She's like, okay, besides his book, what does it mean?
Ah, English class.
I don't miss that.
I don't miss English class.
Now, I will say when I'm really interested in a book or a subject, then sure, I'll go down those rabbit holes of like, you know, why was this way, or like trying to understand on a deeper level. But it's like, it's so often like you'll see interviews with like directors or authors, and they're like, what was the meaning behind this character's decision here? And they're just like, because they like it. I don't know. Like,
It's the story. Like, I don't know.
and it's also funny because there's a lot of the opposite. Like George Lucas, he is notorious for like explaining why all of the different characters in the Star Wars universe did the things that they did, which was really cool and really interesting. But then you go, well, why was Mace Windu's lightsaber purple? And they were like, because Sam Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber. That's why. He literally just asked. And so there's like no meaning behind that, but all the colors have a different meaning. Not his. His was just because he wanted it to be purple.
That's funny. I
So.
love that. I mean, that would be my reasoning too. I'd be like, give me a purple lightsaber, dude.
Right. Yeah. He was like, you can pick any color. And then he's like, all right, I'll take a purple one. So it's the balance, I guess, you know?
That's true. There is a balance there. So it is time to choose. To summarize, our Aardvark picks for September are How to Hide in Plain Sight, So Thirsty, Red River Road, Color Television, and Lady Macbeth. Now, which one of these do you think I chose for my Aardvark box this month?
I think this month is easy. You definitely picked How to Hide in Plain Sight.
You are wrong.
Really?
I did not choose How to Hide in Plain Sight.
What on earth did you pick? Is it Red River Road?
No, I picked So Thirsty.
Oh, you picked So Thirsty.
Yeah.
Really?
If you remember on our September new releases episode, I said I was very excited for So Thirsty and I needed to find a way to read it before Halloween.
I didn't remember you saying that.
Well, at least I think I said that. I said that about one of the books, and I think it was for So Thirsty.
It could have been. I don't remember. But I'm very surprised because the How to Hide in Plain Sight sounds exactly like something you would read.
I would read it, but honestly, when I opened my phone on the morning of September 1st and I saw So Thirsty was an option, I didn't even read anything else. I just added So Thirsty to my box and I checked out. And I found out a couple days ago that it was a signed copy. And obviously, since I always order in the mornings, I'm getting a signed copy. And I didn't even know because
That's
I
pretty
didn't
cool.
even bother to read the details. I was just So Thirsty. Yes, add done. So,
Well, now you have to guess what I would pick.
ooh, this is a little tricky. Honestly, I'm going to go with my gut. I think you would pick Red River Road by Anna Downs.
I'm mad that you got that.
I've gotten all of yours correct.
Yeah, I don't know how you knew that I would want that one. That's so annoying.
I just know you so well.
I just think this one sounds so interesting. And I also love the place that it takes place in. Australia. That's so cool.
Well, I know that you like books that reference things that you find interesting. You find van life interesting. You find
It's true.
Australia interesting.
Also true.
It's got two things you find interesting. So,
I also like the idea that she's like kind of, you know, the pseudo detective trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that one also does sound really, really interesting. And if I had bothered to look at the rest of the picks, I might have gotten a second Aardvark book this month. But, I was just so excited about So Thirsty, and I didn't even know it was a signed edition.
So I think I'm like 5 for 7. How many of these have we done now?
I don't know.
4 for 6?
I think this is the fourth.
This is the 4th, so I'm 2 for 4 and you're 4 for 4?
Yep.
Oh, we got a 50% ratio.
Oh, you better bring that ratio back up.
Gonna have to try.
So, all those Aardvark picks actually sound very intriguing, and honestly, I might have to put some on hold at the library. But not this month because this is the month of reading my shelves.
I was about to say.
Although I do have a hold ready to pick up. It is Call of the Penguins by Hazel Pryor, and it is the sequel to one of my favorite books ever, How the Penguins Saved Veronica. I read that book a couple years ago, or last year. And Hazel Pryor is a British author. So finding her books published in the United States is really, really hard. So How the Penguins Saved Veronica, the title in the UK is Away with the Penguins. And for some reason, this is the only one of the Penguins series that she's written that was published in the US. So I easily could find a copy on Pango, and I purchased it and I read it and I loved it. And then I realized there was a second book called Call of the Penguins. And that one I could not find anywhere except Amazon. And Amazon is a little sketch with its books sometimes. So I really was like, I don't really want to order it on Amazon. But then the other day, I thought about it more and I was like, maybe the library has it. Because ever since I finished How the Penguins Saved Veronica, all I can think about is finding the sequel to this book because I loved it so much. I've been thinking about it since I finished that book. It has been on my mind randomly throughout days and weeks and months. And finally, I checked the library. I'm like, our library has a lot of associated branches. Like it's probably not 100, but it feels like there's like 100 different libraries that I can get books from. So I check. And one library has this book. So I put it on hold and it's now available for me to pick up. So that means I will have to reread How the Penguins Save Veronica so I remember what happens. And then I have to read Call of the Penguins. And now Hazel Pryor is releasing a third Veronica and the Penguins book, which I have no idea how I'm ever going to get my hands on that. I might have to go to England to buy it, but
A special trip just to buy a book.
There are people that do that.
You should reach out to the author.
I should. I do love her book very, very, very much. Or I can try contacting the publisher, being like, I'm obsessed. This is my favorite book of 2023. I finally got my hands on Call of the Penguins. Now I need the third one.
They might be able to give you like a conversion so that way you can still buy it or something, or give you a place to buy it from that does overseas shipping.
I mean, there are a ton of bookstores in the UK that I could buy a book from, but shipping is just it's a lot to ship from another country.
Yeah, especially a book because, well, I guess it depends on the size of it because sometimes like the bigger ones will have more weight and so that costs more money.
Yes. But I'm very excited for that. I have resisted putting any other books on hold at the library.
I know that's hard for you. So.
Actually, that is false. I did put another book on hold in the library, but I'm 10th in line for it, and it is my Myth of the Month September book club book. So it's fine. It doesn't count because it's for a book club.
All right, I'll let it slide.
So I need to read those. Aside from that whole Away with the Penguins, Call of the Penguins book finding fiasco, this week I am actually reading a book called Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. And it is a young adult thriller mystery, and it is so good. It is giving off the perfect spooky Halloween vibes. It's like haunted house.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, and it is so good so far. The main character is obviously a teenager. This is a young adult book. It's published by Harper Teen, and she is so awkward and so funny. And just, I feel like if other teenagers are reading this book, they could highly relate to her.
That's good. That makes for good reading.
It does, yes. And even I am like, this is how I felt when I was in high school awkward and socially inept, and I just, everything I said people would ignore. That sounds a little sad, but very relatable character. I'm really liking her. It has really great representation, great like LGBTQ representation, which you don't really see a lot in teen books. So I feel like it's a good step forward. The dedication that Maureen Johnson put in the beginning of the book, she came for people's throats. She called out people who are trying to actively ban books. And I really liked that because I too do not believe that we should be banning books.
Agreed.
So what are you working on reading this week?
Well, I'm still working through Snapshot by Brandon Sanderson. My goal is to find a book, one of the ones on my TBR, and to just force myself to read like 30 pages or something, just to read a little bit to try to pull myself out of the slump. I just haven't felt the urge to grab something and read it. I think I'm going to try to do that with the Witcher book because that was my next one on the list. And from what I've seen in terms of reviews, the next one that I'm reading, the Swallow of the Lake or something like that, Swallow of the Sword, I can't remember what it's called, but that one is supposedly the really, really, really good one. So I'm using that as motivation.
Well, that's good. It seems I have passed my slump from August on to you.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But my slump, I still powered through some books. But, you know, when you're slumpish and you power through a book, sometimes it makes you not enjoy the book. And then your rating is all skewed and it's biased because you were like, oh, I was in a slump, but I powered through anyway. But it really wasn't that great. Wasn't really vibing.
They should add to like Storygraph or something. There should be like a little checkbox you can click that's like, read this during a slump. So like, like put like a little asterisk next to your rating being like, not totally valid of my feelings at the time.
You know, Storygraph is actually super awesome because they actually take feature suggestions from their users. They are a small woman owned company. It is the owner and I think only a couple software development people. And they work around the clock to like make the app and the website like the best that it can be. And I'm just waiting for the day where it beats Goodreads on the App Store.
I mean, I like Storygraph's features a lot better. I like when you fill out a book when you're done reading it. It has like all the tags and stuff, and it's got like user mark tags and everything like that. I think that's really cool. But yeah, it's kind of inevitable, I feel like, because Storygraph is constantly updating and changing and making things better, as where Goodreads is more of that, like, to me at least, it seems like more of like a social media kind of platform rather than just like a tracking platform.
Goodreads is also owned by Amazon, so they're obviously not going to listen to people's complaints with their app. Because even though Goodreads did update the user interface for their web browser, they did not update the user interface for the app. So the app still feels like old and clunky, whereas the website feels like new and shiny. But Storygraph is constantly updating, and their app always feels new and shiny.
Yeah, I definitely like Storygraph a lot better. No
I
offense.
love Storygraph. I could rave about Storygraph forever and ever and ever. I thought about paying the premium subscription because it would be for a good cause, because I'd be supporting a small woman-owned business.
True.
And it's only like $5 a month, I think. So it's nothing like extravagant, but at the same time, I don't really need the extra features. So I don't know. I go back and forth on it like every so often.
What are the extra features?
There's like more statistics and stuff that you can do. It doesn't hinder the experience if you don't have the plus version, because you can still do nearly everything with the regular version. Plus, it's just like little bonus things.
That's cool. And also you're supporting the business that you like, so makes sense.
Yes, and it allows them more opportunities to add features that users request.
That's true.
So before we sign off, I have to know, what are you currently obsessed with?
Well, if it wasn't indicated by my reading a Google Doc about ramen noodles, I'd probably have to say ramen noodles.
I would say that you are also obsessed with ramen noodles.
I should give a shout out, by the way. The guy that wrote the book he's on the r/ramen subreddit, and his name is the Ramen Lord. If you're interested in what I'm reading and you really like ramen, you can find all the information in the book completely for free on the subreddit.
That is wild.
I think he said it was his twin brother, who's like a PhD doctor guy. I don't know. Really important or big in like a science community, was the one that helped him write the book. So that way he can have like the analytical and the editorial side of things. And it kind of like, it's almost like academic the way that you read it. It feels like an academic journal kind of, but in a good way.
Interesting. Well, now I'm like really hungry for some ramen noodles.
I know, I'm starving right now.
And I never want ramen from like the package, the instant ramen.
We have a bunch.
Not my thing. I like the fancy ramen that you make sometimes.
Yeah, I love all ramen noodles. I'll eat instant ramen, real ramen, traditional ramen. Doesn't matter. It's just so good.
So is it on your bucket list to go to Japan one day and eat like actual ramen made by the Japanese people?
Yes. They have like so many different places that you can go there and get all of these different varieties, and I just want to try them all.
I've seen a lot of that on this travel TikTok, Instagram account called Claire and Peter. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they used to be, I think they worked in healthcare, and they decided to just, put their jobs on pause for a year and travel the world. But now they've like gained so many followers and attention from social media that they can just make traveling the world their full-time job. And I think they've said that Japan has been like one of their favorite stops.
That's super cool. Yeah, I would love to go to Japan. That's definitely the bucket list for me. And just try like not only ramen, but like all of the different Japanese foods.
Yeah, it seems really cool.
Yeah, I would love to just travel the world and eat food. I just love all food.
I think that's everyone's dream. They just want to travel the world.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of people like want to see the sights though, or like meet the people. I'm like, I want to eat the food.
I want to do both. I want to see the sights and I want to eat the food.
I want to go to those little traditional shops in, the way back alley somewhere where some dude's been working there for 45 years and he owns the place and he just makes the best version of whatever it is. That's the kind of place I want to eat at. The hole in the wall places.
The hole in the wall places are usually the best.
What are you obsessed with this week?
I am obsessed with cleaning and organizing. It's just been something that I've very much enjoyed doing for the past week. I mopped the floors. I dusted all the shelves. I vacuum religiously. I like cleaning. What can I say?
You do vacuum religiously.
It's because we have a cat, and
Yeah.
I like to keep the cat hair at bay, even though she hates the vacuum.
Yeah, she's not a fan.
But yeah, I mean, I guess cleaning is a pretty lame obsession, but
I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of it because I hate cleaning. So,
but I feel like I've neglected the cleaning over the summer, and now I'm back to it. Fall is here and I want the house to be spotless.
well, I think we fell into like a little bit of a routine where it was just like do the dishes, put them away, and not really much else. And now I feel like we're in a little bit of a better groove of like actually cleaning. Like when I'm done with the kitchen, I like actually wipe things down now.
Well, we have to now because our cat likes to jump on the counters now.
Well, that's true too. So I guess there's some of that, but
There is motivation to clean the kitchen after we're done using it now.
yeah, I just remember after I cleaned like that whole really, really gross part of the sink. Now I'm like, I want it to stay clean as much as I can.
Yeah, I don't like cleaning the kitchen and I don't like cleaning the bathrooms. But I mean, I'll do it anyway, but it's just not my favorite thing. I like vacuuming. Vacuuming's my favorite. For some reason, just like hearing the noise of the crunch, 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 sucking up things. I mean, it sounds gross. I promise you, our house is not gross because I'm always cleaning. It's just satisfying.
True. It's actually the opposite. It's actually very clean because you're always cleaning.
That's true. That's true.
We just have a cat, so it's like it gets dusty and furry. I think a lot of people relate to that though, especially if they have like multiple cats or dogs. Then
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, I am very much looking forward to diving more into Death at Morning House. I want to get back to my haunted house vibes on this random island off the coast of New York. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention it is on an island, which makes it even spookier.
that's true. Yeah, islands are notorious for being either a paradise or spooky, horrifying.
Yep, yep. And this one is on the spooky, horrifying spectrum. So I want to dive into that, maybe do some outside sitting today because we are in the midst of fake fall. And I hope everyone has a fabulous week. You pick up a book, maybe a mystery thriller to get you in the mood for fall, for Halloween. It's that time of year again. If you need recommendations, hit us up at Love Meets Literature. I have all the book recs for you. So enjoy the rest of your week, read a good book, sit outside, get some fresh air, and happy reading.